Right, this is recording. I'm not even going to trim the start of this. I'll say that again with the volume up. It started recording. I'm not even going to trim the start of this because this is a slightly different video for me. I'm always under huge pressures to edit the material I make, and I just don't have the time. So I'm just going to, because I'm doing some research into Jordan Peterson, I thought I'll just record it as I go through it, because I get thoughts as I go, and I start making research notes. And I thought, right, I'll just video it and make it as a long form video. So there's a few things, there's a housekeeping they call it, to get into first. One is if you like videos to be snappy, full of music, with little cutaways with clips from movies to punctuate the fact that the video you're watching is actually quite boring. If you want that kind of fast, cutty, entertaining content, then you might want to come back to this one when you're more chilling out and washing the dishes or washing the car or walking to work or driving a long distance. And stick this on by all means. I'm already jumping the gun, but I've determined not to edit any of this out. I should also say right off the bat what the video is going to be. I have for quite a while now had my doubts about Jordan Peterson. I don't doubt him being smart. I don't not like him. But I've got an issue with grifting, and to a certain degree, I definitely, I make videos on YouTube, and it's definitely my wish that they get to a stage where I can make money from it. I can't at the minute. I have made money from it, from videos that have gone like viral or have been particularly successful. But I want to be able to make videos about things that I want them to be about. And quite often I'm pressured into trying to make videos about things that are trending. People submit video ideas to me. Either they're too boring or they're like, "Ooh, this is happening, you should make a video about that." And some people seem to struggle with the fact that they don't struggle, they don't care. But just this idea that why would you not want to make a video about that? And it's like, I'm just not interested in it. I have to be interested and true about what I'm talking about. At the moment, or historically, I've been kind of like talking a lot about television because that's the industry I work in. And I want to be able to express how I feel about it and what I observe about it and get it off my chest for my own sanity, if anything else. People might watch it and just disagree. People might watch it and agree. Whatever. Both are valid and great as far as I'm concerned. Any sort of conversation around this stuff is good. I don't qualify a conversation as being insulting people or abusing people necessarily, but unless it's been doing for comedy purposes. But Jordan Peterson has been somebody that I sort of have known of from quite a long time ago, right when he sort of stepped into the scene, which was around about the time that Trump got elected and everybody went apeshit crazy. And the universities, I don't know what happened, but they just flipped overnight. Students became incredibly active, I think, as a result of that, and activism was stepped up a step. A degree. Activism was stepped up a step. It makes sense. And what happened was that everybody became very political in their heads. They didn't necessarily know everything. They didn't bother researching anything. They just knew one thing and one thing alone, which is that Trump was a bad man. It was a disaster for America that he was elected. And this is what that type of person thinks. And everyone suddenly, from being a pool of people with a wide and varied view, with the few activists on the fringe, everyone kind of became an activist, and it parted, and it became left and right, and everyone became an activist. That's how it felt to me anyway. Jordan Peterson obviously was around at that time, and I just noticed that there was a subtle change in him as he went through, as he basically lost his job as being a professor, or that became less tenable for him. he realized there, and I think wisely, started making money from Google advertising and selling books and that kind of thing. And I've just found it interesting to see how he has changed. And also, is he as good as they say? I think the answer to that is, yeah, the guy is smart and specialized in certain fields. And I've really enjoyed things that he's done. My first introduction to him was, I think, when he did that, he boldly went out amongst his students and sort of took the brunt of their, it's basically screaming and yelling at him. And that was kind of the first time I'd seen students talking to like professors like that. I thought it was appalling that I know that we're encouraged, or like even at school you're encouraged. I certainly was when I went to sixth form. You're now a young adult and you are expected to behave that way, and we will treat you that way. And what we have seen is that it appears that you are basically allowed to behave however you like, and that includes like swearing. And that's something that I've never grown up liking. I do swear, but I do see it used constantly without thinking. And that I find I don't like it. I don't particularly like it. I see it on Twitch, just swearing, like mindlessly throwing it in there. And it just makes me think of the mindlessness of it and the lack of inventiveness of it and the lack of ability to express yourselves. And I always get kind of like frustrated when people haven't learned as they drift into their 30s how to behave, because it makes me think, well, what were you doing? Why have you not learned how to behave? Why are you acting like a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old screaming and yelling on Twitch? You see, my is ADHD. I'm not. I've not been diagnosed with it, but I've got a feeling I might have it because I do jump about. Back focusing on Jordan Peterson. Let's get right into it and just talk about it. This is what I've sort of found so far. He was an assistant professor from 1993 to 1998. And then no, that's not true. He was an assistant professor and then he became an associate professor at Harvard University up until 1998. In 1998, he moved back to Canada, became a professor at the University of Toronto, which is kind of like a high esteem sort of position to hold. And he had a clinical practice, which according to Wikipedia, which is, before you raise your eyebrows and go, oh, Wikipedia, it's cited. You can go and look at it. The stuff is sourced. Whether this is true or not, he's often referred to patients he's had, and apparently he was seeing about 20 people a week, it says there. Don't really care, to be honest. In 2021, he retired pretty much retired as a professor, but when that happens, you can keep the title professor, which I think was very important to him, in that he was then going to go on to have a bit of a media career, a bit of a hugely successful media career. In 2016, he made a YouTube video criticizing Bill C-16. In 2017, he stopped seeing patients at his practice. So that was, I don't know how long that was going on for. And in 2018, Sam Harris made it. In fact, let's find that Waking Up podcast. Oops. This is where I find out the video's frozen. I think it was podcast Waking Up hashtag. I think it was 62. Yeah, it is. I watched this earlier, and I just thought it'd be fun to just have a quick. Let's get past the music. I thought it'd be quite fun to just listen to Sam Harris's introduction to Jordan Peterson, bearing in mind that this was a time when we hadn't really, a lot of people didn't really know who Jordan Peterson was. So this is Sam Harris doing his introduction in 2018. In fact, he's put brackets with Jordan B. Peterson.
Most requested guest I have had at this point by all of you. I can't tell you.
Hold on.
He's been on at the university. Welcome to the Waking Up Podcast. This is Sam Harris. Well, today I am speaking with a guest who many of you may not have heard of. He is a clinical psychologist at the University of Toronto by the name of Jordan Peterson, who has become quite famous online recently.
So Sam Harris, at this point, he's only in episode 62 of his Waking Up series. And he's already talking about Jordan Peterson. I don't know who this guy is. You're all going on about him. He's trending. I'll have him on the show. They then go on to have a conversation the last 2 hours, but they can't really get past the start of the conversation, which was a disagreement they had on what it means if a proposition is true. And Sam didn't want to let the conversation proceed. And of course, there was outcry about that. Everyone's like, oh, you need to listen to the guy. He was like everyone's new hero because he was going against all the stuff. It fitted in with what was happening with Trump. Everyone saw this as a change. We're getting a grip of ourselves again over in America. And the thing is, because at this stage, the internet was now in a situation where people could stream successfully without it all being pixelated. This was really not podcasts, but YouTube videos and making debate videos and argument videos was all like massive on YouTube, especially on the heels of Gamergate. So the online conversation on an international level had already started amongst like young people, basically. And when Jordan Peterson came along, he was kind of supporting the sort of stuff Trump was talking about. I'm not saying that Jordan Peterson supports Trump, but just standing up to like left-wing identity politics, I guess. And Sam Harris is almost at this stage, I think, trying to stay relevant by hooking into this. He was still fairly popular. How long had Christopher Hitchens been dead? Because Sam Harris's podcast with Jordan Peterson was in January 2018. Christopher Hitchens died December 2011. So Sam Harris had gone like 7 years without his fellow atheists, celebrity atheists of, there was Daniel Dennett, Dawkins, Sam Harris, Hitchens, and Lawrence Krauss. And these were like the guys who, everyone, they were having huge success, popularity on YouTube. I've got the book over there, God is Not Great by Hitchens. I don't have Dawkins' book over there, though. I do have it somewhere. Oh, Selfish Gene, there it is. Richard Dawkins. So these guys were like massive, and they were kind of dwindling after Hitchens died. People stopped being so concerned about religious stuff. Islam became a massive issue for everybody, and Dawkins and Krauss did a tour. And I know that Sam Harris continued to talk about Islam. It was a time when there was lots of terrorist attacks and things happening in the UK and America. And things started quieting down, really. And I think people just, it's a long time since 2011 to 2018. 7 years. So people are just changing what they were into and what they paid attention to, and didn't want to talk about that so much anymore. And it's just really interesting how things morph from one thing to the other. So when Jordan Peterson came through, he was like talking about different stuff, and he started talking about how young people can better themselves and be better people. I think essentially, I'm not a massive aficionado on the teachings of Jordan Peterson, and immediately you might be thinking, well, why are you making this video? You don't know anything about what he said. This isn't a video about what he said or what he says or what he thinks particularly. This is a video about the grift, really, and I just find it really interesting. You remember when Jordan Peterson started? I got some videos, I got some clips here. When Jordan Peterson started, this is his YouTube channel with all the videos from the oldest first. His first video was 10 years ago, and it's a 30-minute video called What Matters, and it's an off-camera interview. Look, he's got a beard, beardy weirdy. He's got a beard there, look at that. And I just thought it was interesting because this is, I became aware of him round about the Trump era. And I'm just interested in looking at this, how, look at what he's wearing, his braces there, open neck shirt, no tie, sometimes jacket. You know, he's the cool trendy, he's the cool teacher, professor. He doesn't always, mainly not wearing a tie, a couple of buttons undone. There he is doing a TED talk. You know, and he's just in a pair of jeans and a shirt. It's all very cash. But then we saw like a distinct change, and it was around about the time when basically the crap hit the fan for him, and he left sort of the universities and basically went on to write books and become a media celebrity. I do have here, and this is kind of where I want to pick it up from. I can zoom in on this or not. I can. There you go. This is the court case. If you don't know, what happened was, let's have a look if I can find it. Climate change. Bill C-16. They tried to take away his title as professor. So I'm just trying to find it here. Career, must be career. In January 2023, the CPO, what's the CPO? College of Psychologists of Ontario, so this is Canadian, expressing concern that Peterson lacked professionalism in public statements, ordered him to undergo social media communication coaching. Peterson denied any wrongdoing and filed for a judicial review. Peterson's appeal was reviewed in August of the same year by 3 judges at an Ontario court who unanimously upheld the college's initial decision. So they said that you can't talk like that. The college ordered that Peterson should pay for the costs of his own training and noted that failure to comply would result in the loss of his license in the province. Now, presumably, if he loses his license, that means that he can't call himself a professor anymore, because he's technically a professor. What's it called? Emeritus. Professor Emeritus. It's an honorary title granted to someone who retires from a position of distinction, most commonly an academic faculty position, but it's allowed to continue using the previous titles, Professor Emeritus? Emeritus, it must be Emeritus. So he can continue calling himself a professor. So that's when they do all the introductions. They say, oh, we're joined by Professor Jordan Peterson. Sounds grand, doesn't it? And it gives him like credibility to what he's about to say to you. Now, the thing is with Jordan Peterson, and this is my general issue, is I think that he's kind of done saying what he wants to say. And he's now it's almost like Peterson karaoke. He's now just repeating himself over and over. And he's applying himself to areas that are more political than psychological. And I think he keeps trying to attach psychological relevance to what he thinks politically and what's happening socially. I have no idea if that's something he's qualified to talk about or not. Everything he says sounds plausible, and there's a lot of things he says which are brilliant. And I don't like listening to him. I find it monotonous, and I fall asleep because of the constant drifting away from the point, the storytelling that he does in some of his early videos when he was a lecturer. He always tells it reminds me of the story of Peter and Paul and up in the Ark and or wherever Peter and Paul were. And you always get these like references like I don't know, he finds relevance in that kind of thing. I'm not interested. So he's still called a professor, even though technically it's Professor Emeritus. And he wants to hold on to that. So this court case was kind of important. And I thought I'd just go through this document in real time with y'all. By the way, you might remember, I almost said Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Shepherd was somebody who played a video of this video here, Gender Rights and Freedom of Speech, which if you haven't seen it, it's a grand little video to watch. Oh, there's the clip of him getting shouted at. Look.
If it wasn't for this law, and I asked you to refer to me with they, them pronouns, would you?
Why do you have the
Sounds like a
authority
guy.
to determine whether or not
This
an
little boy
individual is worthy of you using their pronouns?
So this is kind of like this is what started it all for him. Here he is. I don't know. It looks like he's at a university and he's wandered out to talk to the students. Now, can you imagine him doing that now and how people would react? And this is a time when people are just interested in, oh, this is debate. This is interesting. Some people, like these guys, don't know one way or the other how they feel about it. These people aren't trans necessarily. Some might be, some might not be. We can see a mobile phone there being used to video it. It's only got one camera on it. I should probably make it bigger so you can see it. It's only got one camera on it, so it's not that very old iPhone. They've now got 17 cameras on them. Let's play a bit.
Like if I asked you, would you please use they, them pronouns for me? What?
It would depend on what I thought of your
Hoops
motivation.
do you want us to jump through?
Those are my pronouns.
So that was interesting. I want you to use my pronouns. Well, it depends on you. I would do it, but it depends on your definition. And then this debate happened here. Well, it's not really a debate. Where you got these people here having a pop at him. He's not very happy. And in it, I won't play it, but in it, this TV show, in it, Jordan Peterson says, well, I'm not going to use your pronouns if you tell me I have to. The thing is that people don't really have a problem with using pronouns that are appropriate to the person you're speaking to. I think if it's a pronoun that's been made up recently and you haven't learnt it yet, and there are lots of them, the z's, theirs, and all that business, then and you get that wrong, and if that is met with hostility, then it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to use it at all. The thing was that if you did that, if you repeatedly did that, that would be seen as kind of a hate crime in the new C-16 law, which included gender identity and gender recognition as being a protected group of people, and that you had to, and that extended out to, like, if you repeatedly don't use the pronouns they use as part of their self-identity, then you're breaking the law and it's hate speech. And potentially that means, well, you could be fined, initially fined. And then what Peterson's saying is, well, I wouldn't pay the fine. So what happens to him then? Well, what happens to him then is that he goes to jail. And the argument is that, well, it would never come to that. It would never come to that. And his argument was, well, it is compelled speech. You're telling me what I can and can't say, and you're applying laws to it. So this was all like very, very interesting. This video I'm showing you, by the way, which this is interesting stuff, isn't it? So this stuff here was played by a teacher assistant called Lindsay Shepherd, played this to some students in a university, and she was pulled to the side and severely reprimanded, to tears, I might add, by some bully lecturers who said, you've broken constitutional law by playing that to them. So this is what happens when you start doing this compelled speech business. It then becomes against the law in the eyes of people who do their own interpretation, who manage the laws of the institution they work for, to play this TV show. This is a well-known Canadian television show that Peterson appeared on, and Lindsay Shepherd, who was playing it for educational purposes. There were apparently some people students objected to it, and they'd learnt that, hold on, we can actually do stuff here to get people sacked. Let's just do it. And we'll do it in the guise of it being a legitimate concern of ours. But what it is a punishment to you. We will use the system that has been set out by our government via C16 being put into the human rights thing. Students learn and young people learn that they can use that now just to bully and punish people. That's how it felt. That's how it looked. In fact, that's how it was. Because people learned to be angry about things. Like if you didn't use the correct pronouns, it was met with outrage. And it wasn't really because of what you'd done. It was because of what it meant to them. And I can imagine people watching this going, well, you know what you're talking about. You're not trans. How do you know? How do you know what I am and what I am not? And this is how messy it is. I hope it's going to get itself sorted out. But so Jordan Peterson, he became a bit of a star. Sam Harris heard of him and had him on his podcast. Sam Harris had his own massive following, and Jordan Peterson wanted a bit of that. And I think Jordan Peterson was a bit of a fan of Sam Harris. Certainly when I listened to that Waking Up podcast with Jordan Peterson, I felt that this was a nobody trying to eke their way into the atheist debate world, which is fine. But I found him monotonous in tone. I don't mean behavioural tone. I mean of voice. I find his voice very difficult to listen to. Just the sound of it, I find it very difficult to listen to. It could be worse. He could be from Birmingham. Joking. Nothing wrong with the Birmingham accent. So, I am wobbling on. This is half an hour. And I've not really even started what I intend to do. This is why I mean this is not a quick sit down on your way to work having a poop video. So there was a court case recently where Jordan Peterson was up. And this court case was between Jordan Peterson and the College of Psychologists of Ontario. They were threatening to take away his license, and he didn't want that to happen. Now, his motives for that, one, I should be allowed. He believes, and this is hold on, let me just read what it says, right? Because it explains it. Overview. When individuals join a regulated profession, which is what professoring is, they do not lose their charter right to freedom of expression. So you've still got a right of expression. But at the same time, however, you do take on obligations and must abide by the rules of their regulatory body, and that may limit their freedom of expression. This is very similar to the Gary Lineker BBC thing, by the way, which is why I think it's quite interesting. What can you kind of accept when you work at the BBC that there are limits on what although you may have all the opinions and views you want, there are limits to how you use the platform the BBC has given you to add weight to them and publicise them. Especially because it looks like you're representing that body. And this is what everyone's doing. Everyone who objects to Jordan Peterson being told having his license taken away also object to Gary Lineker saying what he said, breaking his charter. They are okay with Jordan Peterson breaking the charter of the professorisms, but they are not okay with Gary Lineker breaking the broadcasting charter that the BBC have signed. Is that a fair comparison? Write down in the comments if you don't think so. The case raises a clash between the regulated clinical psychologist's right to speak in a certain manner and the regulator's power to require the member to moderate that speech. I think that if you're an expert at something, moderating your speech is important. You can't, I can't, you can't, I can't, you can't, I can't. Ooh, that was the Matrix kicking in there. You can't just go on to Twitter and start calling everybody the C word. You're all a bunch of C's. F you all. I mean, but under freedom of expression you can. But how impressed would anybody be if anybody did that? It would be out of character for Sam Harris to do that. Hey, you're all a bunch of... it'd be like he's got his phone out when he's wasted. It's just not it's about conducting yourself in a certain way. And the thing is, like, you should, if you're an anarchist, you might say, well, yeah, do what you like, behave how you want. But you will be much more successful in life if you do conduct yourself in a certain way. Because it's kind of like almost against the idea of making your bed in the morning to go on Twitter and just F and blind at people. It's kind of that for me. You should have a tidy... by the way, the tidy your room thing, that is old. That tidy desk, tidy mind has existed for eons. I haven't researched how long it's existed, but I've known it since a kid. Tidy desk, tidy mind. And it's so true. Sometimes if I'm about to do a work, I'm about to do my taxes or whatever, I can only do it if I'm in an absolutely immaculate house and everything's in order and my mind just doesn't get distracted by that. And I can just focus in. And it's so true that and Jordan Peterson kind of just rewrote that in a different way. Make your bed, tidy your room. And I'm sure there's more to it. I do have the book. I've got it in there. I got it on my iPad. But for me, this is just obvious stuff. I didn't see anything amazing about it. But of course, there's the next generation. They're like, oh, wow, that's genius, that. The applicant, Jordan Peterson, seeks judicial review of a decision of the Inquiry's Complaints and Reports Committee of the College of Psychologists of Ontario from November 2022. The decision ordered Dr. Peterson. He was ordered as a registered member of the college. He was authorized to practice clinical psychology to complete a specific continuing education or remedial program regarding professionalism in public statements. Fans, how humiliating to be told that, especially now that you've built up, international celebrity fame, really, for being a professor of stuff, to be told by the professory people, you need to be more professional. The ICRC's order followed an investigation into language used by Dr. Peterson in public statements earlier in 2022. In its decision, the ICRC expressed its concern that Dr. Peterson's comments may be degrading, demeaning, and unprofessional. The ICRC concluded that some of the language used in Dr. Peterson's public statements may be reasonably regarded by members of the profession as disgraceful, dishonourable, and or unprofessional, and posed moderate risk of harm to the public. I don't know about the last bit, but everything else seems perfectly reasonable so far. If you are going around effing and blinding people, now I'm not saying Jordan Peterson did that, but I'm using it as an example of, where is that I'm using a well across the line example to try and clarify the thinking I have and how I approach problems like this. And what I think is going to be interesting is, did Jordan Peterson try to cover this up as something, not cover up as in a cover up, but try and spin this as being about just his free speech and expression? Or was he just like super pissed off that he'd been reprimanded for basically, sending out tweets when he was in a bad place and he shouldn't have really sent them out? I don't know about harm to the public. I'm never happy with the word harm. Harm is always something that's physical to me. I know that people can say things that can hurt your feelings. Having hurt feelings, even the word hurt there should be questioned, I think, because, and that's all because words are violence thing. That's where words are violence comes from, saying, oh, you can say things and it upsets people, and that's like violence. It's the same as violence. It's not. The risks of harm identified by the ICRC included undermining public trust in the profession of psychology. Well, that's a fair comment, isn't it? If you've got somebody who's becoming an international name, like if you said to somebody in the street, name me a famous psychologist, people would go, Jordan Peterson, and then would not say anything else after that. So he's like the number one public eye psychology professor guy. And he's on Twitter saying horrible things. It's kind of like, there's nothing wrong, by the way, of going on Twitter and saying horrible things. It's damaging, I think, to how you're regarded by your colleagues, your professional colleagues. It's damaging to that relationship because, you know, they will lose like faith and trust in you. It's if you use emotive, sensationalist language, that lacks context or anything like that, then you're going to be seen as a flim-flam, really. Whatever a flim-flam is. Although Dr. Peterson, in responding to the ICRC's concerns, said that he was taking his own steps to address his public statements, the ICRC, they're taking steps, basically not doing it again. Dr. Peterson requires Dr. Peterson to participate in a coaching program. Oh, you're a remedial, directed by the college to reflect on and ameliorate his professionalism in public statements. Dr. Peterson was advised that failure to complete the program at his own expense and to the coach's satisfaction may result in an allegation of professional misconduct and the commencement of disciplinary proceedings by the college. There you go. I've concluded that the application should be dismissed. In my view, the decision of the ICRC adequately and reasonably considered Dr. Peterson's statements in the context of the college's statutory rights. Right, we're getting to a bit of blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of interesting. You want to know what he said. He's been registered with the college as a clinical psychologist since 1999. Peterson's been registered at the college as a clinical psychologist since 1999. He stopped seeing patients in 2017. He no longer has a clinical practice. So he's not really being a psychologist anymore. Rather, as his counsel described him in their written submissions, he is a prolific author, podcaster, and YouTube content producer. I got blocked by the guy from Trigonometry. His name's Constantly Kissing. And he blocked me for calling him a YouTuber. And I did it because I just did it as a joke. It wasn't well received. I did it because everyone was joking about Owen Jones was blocking people if they called him a YouTuber. When he set up his YouTube channel, everyone started calling him a YouTuber, Owen Jones. And it was a troll, but he blocked me for being a troll. But, you know, why not? I would have done too. You kind of know. You think, oh, do I mind being blocked by this guy? Nah. I'll tweet it. He's a prolific author, podcaster, and YouTube content producer who maintains an active social media presence. In his social and political commentary, Dr. Peterson is often colourful and controversial. You know, it's just dishonest, isn't it? Saying stuff like that. Colourful and controversial. Nevertheless, Dr. Peterson maintains his membership of the college and refers to himself in his public statements as a clinical psychologist. He certainly does. He also refers to patients. He says, well, one of my patients. He's not had patients since 2017, but he still refers. I noticed this, and I can't cite it. I won't be able to find it. But and this is the thing where I want to make videos like this. I need to start doing this where if somebody does something like that and just get on camera and get it out there as quick as possible. But I've definitely seen a video of him being interviewed where he's referred to his patients. I have a patient, or one of my patients, something like that. And I thought, oh, he's still got patients. That's cool. He's actually a practicing psychologist, and he isn't. Not anymore. He's not got any patients. He's a lecturer of it. He's a honorary professor. In March 2020, following Hold on. Since at least 2018, the college has received complaints about Dr. Peterson's statements. Well, that doesn't really matter because activism was in its throes in 2018, and people were like finding anything to knock people like Peterson back and down. Some complaints have been formal. Oh, right. Well, that's slightly different. But many were tweeted to the college via the social media platform Twitter and often involved Dr. Peterson's views of topics of social and political interest, including transgender questions, racism, overpopulation, and the response to COVID-19. So I'm looking for some examples. A tweet on January the 2nd, 2022, in which Jordan Peterson responded to an individual who expressed concern about overpopulation by stating, "You're free to leave at any point." What's wrong with that? I suppose it's flippant. I suppose also, like, from their point of view, they're like reading, well, let me see if I can make this bigger. You're free to leave at any point. I don't know if I care about that. Various comments Dr. Peterson made on January 25th, 22, appearance on the podcast The Joe Rogan Experience. Dr. Peterson is identified as a clinical psychologist and spoke about a vindictive client whose complaint about him was a pack of lies. Speaking about air pollution and child deaths, Dr. Peterson said, "It's just poor children and the world has too many people on it anyways." Right. Let's watch that. Let's watch that and see the context of that. What's his name? Joe Rogan. I'm not going to watch that particular clip. I'm just going to watch the total. 3, 2, 1.
There's winners. And that's complete bloody nonsense because as far as I'm concerned, that, and I really believe this, is that every single person...
Shall I share it with you?
There's winners. And that's complete bloody nonsense because as far as I'm concerned, that, and I really believe this, is that every single person who sets out to put themselves together ethically is a net...
Sorry, it's going to be relevant later, but I just want to point out what he's wearing. He's still wearing his professor gear, right? Just notice that because you know what's coming. You know what happened. You know what happened. This is 2018, is it? When is this? November 2018. So he's using the word, I've heard him use the word bloody before. It's a very Britishy thing to say. I don't know if it's something that they do in the colonies of Canada. But is that right? The colonies, I don't know. But yeah, it's not really relatable anymore. People don't really say it in the UK much. It's quite old fashioned term. Well, the bloody thing's broken, isn't it? We don't really say it anymore. They've replaced. It's been well and truly replaced with the F word.
Person whose pattern of being is worth imitating. And that's all associated with responsibility. And
I'll tell you what I do like about Jordan Peterson, and this is something I wish I could do, which is not and ahhing and his ability to communicate so well. He's a brilliant talker. If anything, he does tend to go off in another direction with it and get to his point in a long roundabout way. But I'm not going to be able to find it. But what I'm seeing is this is very laid back. Let's have a look at Joe. Can I see a 2-shot? We got a 2-shot? Maybe it's at the beginning. Don't they do 2 shots in these award-winning podcasts? No 2 shots. So it's just 2 single shots. God, it's garbage, isn't it? So production's rubbish. What's Joe wearing? There he is. Yeah, he's got a hoodie on. So Joe's a comedian, if you don't know. He does Kill Tony. He's on Kill Tony. I've seen him on there a few times. He's definitely established as a comedian, and by all counts, I think he's quite a good one, isn't he? I know he's also to do with sporty stuff, fighting, is it? But I don't think there's any doubt that anything that happens on something like this would be you would be expected to be a little bit entertaining. So if he's going to make a comment like that, it's just poor children. The world has too many people on it anyways. Oh, God, air pollution. Let's see if we can find it. Let's do this properly. Let's see if we can find it. Air pollution. D. Path towards. View all. Safe spaces. Nervous system. Biological, past, present, future, supposed to do something. So we're talking about a load of bearing a cross, addressing the suffering in the world. Well, it sounds likely, doesn't it? What's this bit?
Responsibility. You're responsible for addressing the suffering in the world. So that could give you some meaning, seems to me. And then the next thing is, there's a story, of course, that Christ met the devil in the desert. And so that's the encounter with malevolence. So that would be the other thing, because the two major problems that people face, obviously, are suffering, tragedy, and malevolence. And so that's the other thing that you're responsible for, is that you're supposed to look at the capacity for human evil as clearly as you possibly can, which is a very terrifying thing. You know, that causes post-traumatic stress disorder in people that aren't accustomed to it. And in the mythology that's associated with the encounter with evil, it's almost always the case that the entity that does the encountering, even if it does it voluntarily, is hurt by it.
So he's talking about gaudy stuff there a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to find it in a how long is this? A 2-3 hour interview. I'm just not going to be able to find it, am I? It's almost certainty that I'm not going to be able to do it. So apparently said that. I don't know. Who cares? It's just poor children. Sounds like a joke to me. A tweet in February 7, 2022, in which Jordan Peterson referred to Gerald Butts as a prick. I don't think that's how you spell it. I think it's got a C in it. Is he one? I mean, yeah, it's massively unprofessional to do that. You shouldn't do that. Jordan, stop doing that. What are you thinking? You nutter. It is, you know, if you're going to be so particular about whether you're called a professor or not at your interview introduction, it's probably a good idea that you maintain that level of pickiness when deciding how to present yourself to the world. You should, if you are, you know, saying, look, I'm a highbrow professor, Harvard, hello, then you need to behave like that, don't you? Because if you're not going to behave like that, then it shouldn't really matter whether they call you a professor or not, because it clearly doesn't matter. It's very confusing for me to think, well, one minute you want me to hold you in high regard, next minute you name calling, calling people names that you don't like. And the thing is, it's the impact of it as well, because it's not the same for me to call this Gerald Butts guy a prick, because I don't know who Gerald Butts is, and I don't really feel that. So the context, and also not many people see the stuff I make on YouTube, so it doesn't matter. Jordan Peterson does it, and millions of people have access to seeing that. You know, it gets sent to their accounts. They see it, and they go, "Oh!" They retweet it. It becomes a meme in a way and it's an albatross around that person's neck that's just been called that by somebody who's a professor. You know, if a professor says you're one, then you must be one. So it's kind of important that you do behave yourself or conduct yourself in a certain way. And I know that all the free speechers will be like, what are you talking about, behaving in ourselves? We'd have to behave in it. Yeah, you do. It's called society. You've read, Lord of the Flies. You can take that attitude of we can behave how you like, apply that to Lord of the Flies, and you end up dead. Because one of the people in that society is going to be mortally offended by what you've done and decide to do something about it. So you have to sort of behave in a way where you respect each other's what's the word? You don't undermine people. People need to have a self-worth. And if that becomes challenged, if that becomes beaten up by you, then it's kind of like you want to defend yourself. It's like, hold on, you can't call me that. You can't and it's not that you're calling them that, it's that you're undermining them or you're publicly shaming them or doing something to that affects that person's self-worth in a way. And I know people watching this going, well, hold on, but what about trans people? That's what they want. In response to a tweet about actor Elliot Page being proud to introduce a trans character on a TV show. Hold on, what's this say? Dr. Peterson tweeted on June 22nd, remember when pride was a sin? And Ellen Page just had her breast removed by a criminal physician. I'm reminded again of Gary Lineker and the BBC and tweeting stuff like that out. Say that was something extremely disagreeable that he had done, and he's working at the BBC, and the BBC's. It's kind of like that's the BBC should be mortally offended, and people who work at the BBC should be mortally offended that they are having this guy on a multi-million-pound budget, and he's going on social media and saying what he's saying. The reason they're not mortally offended is they agree with him about everything he's saying and doing. It's like they're because that's just how it is. And Jordan Peterson is kind of, although he wouldn't say, he's probably libertarian or something, but he's essentially right wing. I'm not sure how far right he is. I don't think he's far right. I always see Nazis as far right. There's absolutely no. It's ludicrous to most people who right wing has got such a bad name for itself, hasn't it? But it isn't really a bad thing to be right wing. It's not. It's as bad as being left wing. Put it that way. It's when you get into the extremes of both sides. Extreme like left wing, you're getting towards dictatorship, and extreme right wing, you're getting towards dictatorship. It's the extremities of political beliefs that are concerning. And Jordan Peterson is not that. He's a compassionate, caring, emotional man. But if I went into a job interview and they sat me down and said, all right, you want to be the professor of psychology here at the university? Yeah, I do. And you want to have students, you want to have patients coming in to see you to get your help because they've got psychological issues that they want to get over. Yes, I want to be able to help them. Excellent. Let's just, what would you do if somebody who was a brilliant actress decided to change into being a boy and got her breast removed and stuff? What would you do? Oh, I'd go on social media and say that the person who did that to you was a criminal physician, and that having pride in something like that is a sin. That's what I'd do. Oh, right. Well, you haven't got the job of clinical psychologist here at the university. Thanks very much for your invitation. You can see how it's not right. It's not what anybody wants from a clinical psychologist. So it's probably right and proper that an institution should question bad behavior like that. A further complaint about Dr. Peterson's January 2nd, 22 tweet, in which Dr. Peterson responded to an individual who expressed concern about overpopulation by stating, you're free to leave at any point. I don't really care about that. Is that a sort of go, why don't you go home type of reference, which is like the well-known, that's what the right-wingers, the far right-wingers would say, why don't you bugger off back to your homes then? It's like, that's rubbish. That rubbishes the argument against him, I think. Peterson's tweet posted May 22, in which he commented on Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Cover with a plus-size model, a fat model, that's what they mean. Sorry, full stop, not beautiful, full stop. And no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that. So he sort of stated as a fact that if you're fat, you're not beautiful. Again, if somebody, if you were going for a job interview as the clinical psychologist, where you were given the title professor if you get the job, associate professor or assistant professor, as Jordan Peterson started out with, and they say to you, somebody comes in to see you, you want to be the clinical, thanks for coming for the job of clinical psychologist at the university. We want to do a little hypothetical with you, Mr. Peterson. A student comes in, or somebody comes in to see you, they're morbidly obese, and they've got psychological issues, and they come in and they tell you that they've got problems with their family or whatever, but they also tell you that they're very grateful, though, that they feel about how they feel about themselves, which they feel that they are beautiful, and they feel they're beautiful because they're so big and they're fat and that. What do you say to them, Mr. Peterson? Well, I would say, sorry, you're not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that. That's what I say to her or him. Right, well, thanks for coming for the job, Mr. Peterson. Fortunately, we'll let you know. I'll put it that way. All right, mate. All right. Next! What a dummy thing to put on Twitter. I mean, this is activism. This is the same activism that we see from the left, isn't it? It's the same thing. And he knows that is a mistake. I found Twitter a very difficult thing to manage because it's people don't realize that you're not texting your mates, you're not putting it into a forum seen by a couple hundred people, you're posting it to the world. You're publishing a piece of information to the world, and the information might be an opinion, but you're publishing it to the world forever. And this is why I think that we need to change the status of what YouTube and Twitter is. Twitter is a publishing platform. It's for publishing. And YouTube is a broadcasting platform. And all the rules that apply to publishing law, well, we apply publishing law rules to Twitter already. But all the rules that apply to broadcasting should be applied to things like YouTube. And it'll probably be the end of YouTube when that happens. Because people won't like it. Everything will have to become a lot more professional. Sorry, I'm yawning. If I can't stay awake during this, I don't know how you're managing to stay awake during this. I think I'm probably done. I mean, I've kind of seen enough of this. Oh. I mean, it does go on. Sorry, let me share what I'm looking at. This is Peterson versus College of Psychologists in Ontario, Superior Court of Justice. I mean, I guess it just boils down to, I mean, I've seen enough, to be honest, to conclude. But I think it just boils down to, what is Jordan Peterson about? And he wants to maintain that title of being a psychologist. But just to conclude, I've been talking about his suits. Here's his YouTube channel. If I go to his videos and go to the latest one first.
Hello, everyone.
Look what we're getting now. I don't know why that jumped in there.
Hello, everyone.
So, 3-piece suit. It's very tailored. This is his channel logo, is it? Look, it's just all so different. He's got backlight now. It's a full job. I'm glad to see he's not got a microphone like this putting at his face. He's on a proper broadcast like tie mic. It looks like he's reading a note cue to me, or a teleprompter, just by that face.
I'm pleased to announce my new
And it's just jumped to that shot, which is okay. That's
tour for 2024. Beginning in early February and running through June, Tammy and I and an assortment of special guests are going to visit 51 cities in the U.S.
All the production, The Wire are giving him for this. Look at this.
Our attempt.
Look at it, the legs crossed, the hands hanging off the side of the chair. It's also, look at me, look at my success. Don't you think? Am I making it up? It's dripping in success and confidence now. He knows everyone knows who he is. He knows how famous he is now. And a lot of his image change happened when he stopped being a professor. And I don't know this for sure. But I think when you're booking Jordan, don't you have to go through his daughter? Or has he got a team now that does it? It's probably, is it Daily Wire that manage him now? I don't know. But it was definitely, I think this reassessment of how he appears, his image. Because how he appears, he wants to appear three-piece suit, smart. I'm a clinical psychologist. But then he's telling people that you're ugly and you're a sinner, and he's calling people pricks. Well, he's not calling people; he called a person a prick. Apparently, so it says. So was the claim made. This is not so. So he wants to look like a professor, but he doesn't. But he wants to talk like a student. He wants to relate. So, the suit is unrelatable. The language is relatable. That's his problem. And I think that if he went into just talking like a professor or, behaving in that way, it would be very Sam Harris-y. Which is a limited appeal, I think. So I don't know. It's up to him. I think he's so famous now that he can probably do with checking himself a little bit and be. You can think what you want. And Sam Harris, I bet Sam Harris lounges at home in a t-shirt and jeans and trainers and swears and calls people names. And he looks at tweets and he goes, "Oh, you effing this! What an absolute moron!" I bet that's what Sam. But he doesn't do that in public appearances. He will always be. I'm he what is he? He's a neuroscientist. Anyway, that's just my observations about Jordan Peterson, which is ones of I'm wary of him, and I kind of see what's happening. I don't not like him, and there'll be people who just whatever he does is brilliant, and anyone who has an issue with Jordan Peterson is a left-wing fool, captured idiot. And I think that the left are the worst of the political sides. But I do see on the right equal mistakes being made. And I see that huge similarities between just how the moderate left and the moderate left and moderate right are neither here nor there. It's and I don't think that it's moderates who care. Moderates don't tend to. They'll watch a video like this and just they won't be listening to it because they don't care. If you've sat through this right up to minute 1 hour and 3, then you're probably somebody who's a bit more active in the world in terms of politics and whatnot. So there you go. That's been my long ramble. I'm going to upload this just to see what happens. And I'm interested to hear your comments about what I think and my thoughts about Jordan Peterson. I'm very happy to change my opinions. But please convince me. Be nice. Because it's nicer, isn't it, if people are nice. Have a lovely day and take care of yourselves. Cheerio.